Hello, beautiful internet family. Dan here from DansTube.TV. And if you're new around these parts, you can expect brutally honest tech reviews on the channel. I've made it my mission around here to empower tech enthusiasts to unlock their creative potential with technology. And today's video is a fitting one because I'm comparing the newly released DJI Mavic 3 and the relatively newly released DJI Air 2S to make sure that you make the right buying decision. I want to make sure that you pick the drone that's perfect for you. I don't want you to spend too much money on it. I don't want you to spend not enough that it lacks features and it just doesn't give you what you need. So this video is a true comparison between two flagship drones from DJI. The first thing you'll notice most likely is the size difference. So you can see that the Mavic 3 is definitely larger than the Air 2S. It actually was really weird when I went from flying the Mavic 3 all the time to flying the Air 2S for the previous side-by-side comparison, but it was just really amazing to kind of see the technology they'd crammed into such a small drone like the Air 2S in comparison to a larger drone like the Mavic 3. The other thing that's different here is you've got a full-on mask. It's COVID safe for sure, and as you take it off, it actually protects all the propellers and that massive camera on the front there as well. A really cool design compared to just the gimbal cover on the Air 2S. The first thing I noticed about the Mavic 3 when I unfolded it is that the arms are significantly longer than the Air 2S. It's also a similar story with the propellers here, as the propellers on the Mavic 3 are a lot longer than the Air 2S propellers. Now, the thing that's so cool about that is it actually does make a difference to the way it kind of handles wind. I was having some full-on wind conditions, like 30-kilometer winds, and this thing just handled it like it was nothing. And that's where I think you're getting a little bit of an improvement over the Air 2S. The Air 2S can definitely handle the same kind of wind conditions here, but in terms of flying back towards the wind, I would say the Mavic 3 performs slightly better than the Air 2S. The Mavic 3 definitely handles the wind a lot better. The other thing I really like about this redesign is the way that they've kind of angled the front arms down. Unless you have a landing pad, you're going to be literally taking off from weird terrains. And that clearance from the ground to the camera is so important because the camera could get damaged quite easily. And the Air 2S, that distance from camera to ground is minute in comparison to the Mavic 3. So that's another thing I love about the Mavic 3. Now, the other obvious change here is that the batteries load on top, but the Mavic 3, it's a rear-loaded battery, significantly larger than the Air 2S battery. Even like the indicator is on top compared to the back because it's rear-loaded. It's just completely redesigned for this brand new drone. But they've still kept the aesthetics, the look of the drones very similar, even though they've had to completely redesign it for this new enclosure and the new battery that is rear loaded. Now, in terms of price, there is a big difference here. The Mavic 3 will set you back 4,199 Australian dollars for the Mavic 3 Fly More combo, where the Air 2S will set you back $2,099 for the Fly More combo with those 3 batteries. And honestly, you have to pick up the Fly More combo. If you're gonna get a drone, it makes the world of difference having that additional flight time. They recently did add the Active Track and MasterShots mode to the Mavic 3. And I've got videos on the channel to check that out as well. But the Air 2S has MasterShots as well as Active Track. So what are you getting different here? You know, it's double the price. Well, the first thing you're getting, it's called directional tracking. But basically, when you're doing Active Track with any other DJI drone, you just track from whatever position the drone is in. You can't choose what direction it's following you from. Where the Mavic 3 actually has an advanced option where you can choose what position the drone is going to be tracking you from. I think that's really exciting. That's what I kind of want from the Mavic 3. It's still in its early stages and we've still got some more firmware updates coming very soon. This guy has a beautiful camera system and obviously that flight time is improved. We need to see something substantial to justify that price tag. The big thing I want to see, which I still don't understand why we haven't seen it yet, I want to see waypoints. I want to see planning options with a prosumer drone that's over 4,000 Australian dollars. Like, it needs to pack a punch. Just before I go any further, I do actually have some discount codes for my audience. If you want to pick up the Air 2S or any other drone on the market besides the Mavic 3, you can use the code DANSTube over on the D1 Store's website. You can save 10%. But if you're picking up the Mavic 3, It's a different code. It's DANS100. That will save you $100 off whatever Mavic 3 you pick up, regardless of the model. And you'll also get 3 gifts with that. So you'll get 128 gigabyte micro SD card, you'll get a landing pad, and you'll also get a battery safe bag. Swapping over to the Air 2S now, this was a drone that really did impress me. It was actually a large upgrade. You know, it released the MasterShots mode. We got also those upward facing sensors, plus we got a 1-inch sensor, which we hadn't seen prior to that point. It had a slightly improved like flight time and distance and all that kind of stuff, but that to me was actually quite a large upgrade, and it does have a bunch of options on it, and something that I'm quite impressed with overall, just for like that high-end drone that is affordable, really. Now, with the Mavic 3, you're getting 2 cameras on here. You're getting a 1/2-inch sensor on top, which is the telephoto camera. It's got a zoom capability. 7x zoom is the sweet spot, basically. Everything else is okay, but not the most usable. Where the Micro Four Thirds system on the bottom there is gorgeous. It's a really awesome camera system. You definitely do notice a difference in terms of clarity, dynamic range. The colors really pop because it's that Hasselblad color science. Where this is a 1-inch sensor on the Air 2S, still a phenomenal camera system, beautiful colors, and great dynamic range and everything. It's a sharp image, but that slight improvement, is it worth double the money? That's a hard one to say. Honestly, for most people, the Air 2S video quality is going to be amazing. But for photo quality, they're both 20 megapixel sensors. This actually has like larger resolution on it, which is really weird. In terms of the video though, this guy obviously performs a lot better in low light. Like if it was an overcast day, definitely a better camera system, but just depends on your needs. The other thing I find really weird is the Air 2S can capture 5.4K video up to 30 frames per second, but the Mavic 3 can capture 5.1K video, but it can capture it up to 50 frames per second. So you're getting an improved frame rate at 5.1K. For people out there that don't really know too much about it, on paper, this has got a better option, like better opportunities for 5K video, but you do have 50 frames per second. So if you're capturing things at 25 FPS, you can actually slow the footage down if you capture 50 FPS 5K footage. So that is a big improvement if that makes a big difference to you. Video is really important to so many people out there, and I think that's why the Mavic 3 might be really appealing to you. Adjustable aperture, a larger sensor, you know, all of those things that are obviously going to make a big difference to people who are going to play with it in post-production. But the Air 2S, this guy here, that 1-inch sensor, really, like when I compared it to even just the Mavic Air 2 to then the Air 2S, a big jump there. That was something that was a noticeable jump, going from like a 1/2-inch sensor to a 1-inch sensor. It was a nice improvement over the Mavic Air 2, which was still a phenomenal drone. But then we jump to the Mavic 3. The 2 camera systems work separately. They don't really interact, and it's just 2 separate experiences. And I find myself more so going to the Micro Four Thirds system. The zoom is a little bit of a novelty unless you're using that 7x where it looks really crispy. So now in terms of battery life and the actual overall flight performance, you're getting 46 minutes quoted on the Mavic 3 and 31 minutes with the Air 2S. But I did find myself being quite impressed with that additional flight time. So I could get multiple shoots done with the 1 battery. Again, like, does that matter to people? Like, think about what you're going to be using the drone for. And if you need to film in one location for an extended period of time, that's going to make a big difference to you. The battery performance and the battery time is going to be a really big calling card for you. And then in terms of flight performance, which I've spoken about briefly at the beginning, they both fly phenomenally well. They don't surprise me when I'm flying them. They just handle exactly as I need them to handle. I will say early on, when this originally came out before the firmware update, I noticed it was a little bit touchy. It has so many sensors, like it's truly omnidirectional. It senses in every single direction. And the Mavic 3 for me just had a few moments where it would notice something and it would kind of dart away a little bit, where I noticed the Air 2S, if it noticed something, it would be a little bit more smooth. It seemed like it was a bit more of a refined sensing system. I did notice with the Mavic 3 that as it's flying, let's say I'm looking at you guys and I'm flying, the drone would automatically kind of pick up. So it would automatically sense something and start flying upwards, which actually created a bit of a dynamic view, which I didn't mind. But again, it wasn't something I wanted. I didn't decide on that. Never had that experience on the Air 2S or really any drone. The sensors are a little bit fiddly at the moment. Unless you get yourself the Cine edition of the Mavic 3, you're gonna be getting the exact same controller that you're getting with the Air 2S. Now this is a newly updated control design that we saw in the Mini 2, and it's something that I'm quite a fan of. Like, it is an improvement in the controller design. I love the cable management, how it literally just tucks behind here. I love that I can keep my phone in its case while it's enclosed in here. I don't have to take it out of its case, which was a problem with the previous controller design. And it's just a larger feel, like it feels a lot more sturdy, and the balance, like the offset of weight when your phone's on top, is a lot nicer than the original controller design. But still, again, it's double the price. I was expecting maybe something different. You know, you can obviously get that Pro controller, but otherwise you're getting the same controller that you're getting with the Air 2S. Now you are getting an improved range with the Mavic 3, so it's OcuSync 3 Plus. You're getting 15 kilometers of range as opposed to the 12 kilometers of range with the Air 2S. If you have a lot of interference in your area and range is really important, or that lack of interference is really important, then maybe the improvement could be a big calling card for you, but otherwise not really. Both drones have AirSense and AirPass. So AirSense actually has input from other manned aircraft in the area, and it will pop up and let you know that there's an aircraft flying in the area. That's more of a safety thing. Both of them have it and they both work really well. But when it comes to the APass, which means that it can actually avoid obstacles and objects in your environment, they both have APass, but the newer Mavic 3 has APass 5.0. Plus you also have that directional tracking. So as it swings around and tracks you from the front, it still should be avoiding everything to the side, below, up, down, all directions. So a really impressive avoidance system that I haven't been able to truly test yet, but they're both great. Like I said, the Air 2S with its avoidance and with its tracking was actually really impressive. It's the best tracking I've ever tested. Haven't fully tested this one yet, but this is still a really impressive tracking system, and yeah, never had any issues with it. MasterShots was a new feature added to the Air 2S, and it's come back, it's made a return on the Mavic 3. No different though, there's no exciting new feature on the Mavic 3, which again, I feel like was a lost opportunity here. Hopefully we'll see something in the future. But the Mavic 3 does the same thing. It can do 4K and 1080p MasterShots. It gives you the option between the height, length, and width of the actual tracking, the MasterShots, like where it's going to move in the environment. But then it's all predetermined by an algorithm. You have no control. I wish that with the Mavic 3, we could choose what shots it was going to capture. I wish we could set up waypoints. I wish we had some pro options. But unfortunately, it's the exact same offering as the Air 2S, which is a little bit disappointing. One of the only other differentiating factors in terms of features that are unique to the Mavic 3 is that you can actually capture 4K 120 frames per second. So really high quality slow motion, where on the Air 2S, it can only capture 1080p at 120 frames per second, which is still great, but you are getting that high quality slow motion on the Mavic 3. So if that's a really important thing to you, then that could maybe be a reason why you would want this. Both drones also capture 10-bit D-Log as well as the 5K footage. So again, very similar in terms of their offerings. I feel like DJI shot themselves a little bit in the foot by releasing such an amazing drone before the Mavic 3. Just based on what they added to it, it is quite a big upgrade here. And honestly, I know we're getting to the end of the video now. For most people, I think you would be more than happy with the Air 2S. The Mavic 3 is a phenomenal drone, don't get me wrong, and I'm absolutely loving it, but it's double the price, and it really doesn't have double the features, double the offering. I mean, it's such a good camera system. It's a really awesome flight time, great performance. You get additional sensors on it. It's got a few things that are definitely an improvement here, but at this stage, you know, like, are you gonna notice the difference between 12 kilometers of range and 15 kilometers of range? You know, like, you're not gonna notice that difference. And in terms of the 5K footage, you might notice a little bit more clarity or a bit more sharpness, let's say, in the image, a bit more dynamic range. Obviously, it's better in low light because of that adjustable aperture and that larger sensor. So you are going to notice slight, like, nuances. There's only going to be little improvements with the Mavic 3 if you're comparing it to this guy. So that's why it's so hard to say, yeah, just spend double the money to get this guy. And that's why I want to see waypoints. I want to see more options for the user to really customize the experience. Give us some pro options, you know, then it would make it worth the money. But right now it's just a slight improvement over a drone that is really solid. So for me, I'm a little bit torn here because I'm thinking about who this drone is for. You know, who's the Mavic 3 for? Who's the Air 2S for? Are you a prosumer? You know, are you a filmmaker? Are you someone who uses your drone footage for commercial work? Or are you just someone who's out there doing it for your social medias or doing it for family? Like, why are you using these drones? That's kind of what I wanted to put my head into here. And for me, like, I'm a content creator. I create content on YouTube, a lot of drone content. Using the Mavic 3 has been a privilege, and it's such an amazing drone, some really exciting things that they've tried to put into it. Like a dual camera system on paper just sounds so exciting, but in actuality, like when you use it in the real world experience, you know, it is fun. They've really tried to make it this unique offering here, but I think right now it's lacking the software to make it the prosumer drone that we all deserve. So with all of that being said, I think my heart and my mind, and when I'm thinking about others, like why you would be using this drone, I think the Air 2S is the clear winner here. Besides those few things I mentioned that you're not getting, and those few things that are slightly improved on the Mavic 3, this is giving you everything you need in a drone and more. But I would love your thoughts in the comments below. Is the Mavic 3 worth that extra money? If not, I'd love to know in the comments below. And if so, I would still love to know in the comments below. Let's start a discussion. Let's help some people make the right decision for them. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I will chat to you in the next one. Make sure to have a fantastic day, week, rest of the month if I don't chat to you before then, which I will, I'm sure. I'll talk to you very soon, guys. Have a great one. Peace.